Greetings to the free world known to man. We're back at you one more again. Wanted to speak to you good folks about remembering the Alamo. If you're a native Texan, you've had Texas history, so you understand the, timeline and the build up to what was the Battle of the Alamo. And if you're not, we're gonna get you into that in a second. This message is really primarily for Latinos and black peoples in a general kind of way. So if you're white, you can go ahead and fast forward, rewind, wherever you're at in the catalog and forget about it because you're gonna be mad. Now, instead of speaking to the Alamo itself and the remembrance, we're gonna go ahead and take you back to more recent history. When in America, they were referring to people of Mexican descent as Mexicans. Like whenever you go to fill out your little job application and you self-identify, the box was Mexican. And Mexican turned into Mexican American, and Mexican American turned into Hispanic. Now, mind you, along that same timeline of the progression of what you identify as, the talk about immigration and immigration reform took a different tone. You see, when the Mexicans were Mexicans, even though they were born here, those Mexicans had a direct connection to the people across the border in Mexico because you're all Mexicans. Then you became Mexican American, hyphenated Americans, by the way. So there was a sense of prestige that, well, my people are from here and this and that. And then finally they busted out with Hispanic. And if you go to Hispaniola, like on a map, it's a black island, like it's slave trade. Anyway, Hispanics. And now the tone about immigration is building a wall to separate America from Mexico. And you have Hispanics walking around going, yeah, keep them out of here. We had an acquaintance. Actually, she was a friend once upon a time, but she was sitting around talking about blah, 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 dirty Mexicans. And we're like, huh? Because she identifies with Hispanic. She's one of you newfangled folks. And mind you, she's 3 generations off of Mexico. And from the way they were living, we don't think her grandfather came over here legally. Anywho, so yeah, you Hispanics out there, and it's fine, identify how you want to, because we're pretty opposed to the ideology of African American, because if anything, it would be American Africans, since we won't get into that. So, when you're talking about you Hispanics that identify with being Hispanic, turning your back on the Mexicans, it comes up to the ideology of the Alamo. Because see, at the Alamo, for those that are unfamiliar with Texas history, the great patriots who were basically participating in grand theft land. You see, white people moved in here to Texas and settled the area. The taxes got too high, there were promises broken, and instead of leaving, they picked up guns and started a revolt to take over what's now Texas. But at the Alamo, there was a battle where there was entirely too many Mexicans for the white people to fend off. And even the Mexicans fighting on their side, by the way. There were entirely too many Mexicans, and they couldn't do anything about it. So when you start thinking about this whole border and immigration thing that these white people are promoting behind Donald Trump or what have you, they're trying to remind you that you're better than the people right across the border. You're better than someone who just got here, but they do little things like in Arizona, they had passed a law. Like, mind you, all the citizens of Arizona, majority rules, passed a law where if you looked a little too Mexican, you could be stopped, detained, and questioned by police and have to produce documentation that you were actually an American citizen or had a green card or whatever. So that means if your last name is Lopez, Torres, Munoz, Hernandez, whatever it is, and you looked a little too Mexican at the time, a cop could stop you, no big deal. Same thing with stop and frisk in New York. They were stopping blacks and Latinos, no white people. Why? Because you're not like them. You're not one of them. It doesn't matter how much you try to do. The same thing in the black community. We hear coons, and we hate calling them coons, but they keep acting like coons. We hear coons all the time saying, oh, well, you know, all that's in the past, it's all over. No. If you look like this guy, you're in trouble. If your last name is like one of the last names we mentioned and you look like it, you're in equal amount of trouble. But they use some divide and conquer tactics between the prison system, housing, etc. Like here, for instance, in Los Angeles, the Mexicans moved into black neighborhoods. Well, the white people weren't going to put them in their neighborhood. Hell, back in the Gap in Boston, when there was an Irish influx of immigrants coming over, mind you, they're Irish. The white people were like, well, you know, they're Irish, but they're not black, so we'll put them in Southie. And they uprooted all the black families in Southie and moved them further south because, well, they were black and not at least fair-skinned like the rest of the pigmentally challenged people coming over here in boats. But that's how white people get down. So whenever you think that you're siding with, you know, reason and logic and being a citizen, remember, there's a white person calling you a wetback the same way one's calling us the N-word. Period. So remember the Alamo and remember your roots. And that goes for all blacks and Latinos. Don't ever forget that, because they don't.